Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Diptarup Ghosh Dastidar and I am an assistant professor in the Amity School of Languages, Amity University, Chhattisgarh. And today we are going to discuss Lotos-Eaters by Lord Alfred Tennyson. Now, this is the fourth session of discussing Lotos-Eaters. So, what have we done in the earlier three sessions? In the first session, we talked about the similarities between Ulysses and this poem because both are written by the same person and both have the same source material. Then we went on to understand the verse structure in which this poem is written. So this is in iambic pentameter, but it is not in blank verse, and it has a rhyme structure to itself. So we discussed all of that. And in the third video, we discussed about the first part, the introductory part of the poem, which is of 5 stanzas. In this video, we'll start with the Choric Songs. So the Choric Songs, they constitute the second part of the poem. And the poem is in 2 parts, introduction, Choric Songs. And there are 8 paragraphs in the Choric Songs. Now, what I thought is that we could do the Choric Songs in 2 halves. We'll do the first 4 stanzas in this video and we'll do the next 4 stanzas in the next video, so that we can get a good idea of what the Choric Songs are about. Now, these Choric Songs, the songs which are sung by all the mariners together, where are they sitting? Why are they singing this song? Let us understand a little bit of the background. So they have come from, they have been journeying for a while and they see an island. They come into the island and they describe the island. The narrator describes this island. They come across some Lotos-Eaters. So people who eat, the inhabitants of that island who eat the fruit of lotus, and they offer this fruit of lotus to the mariners. Some of them accept it, some of them don't. Now those who accept this fruit, they suddenly get intoxicated by it because it is a drug, and now they are all sitting on the sand and they don't want to go anymore. They just want to stop their wandering and sit down there and rest. And this is where they start their Choric Songs. Now here you can see the crux, the essence, the in short what every single stanza is about, and I'm going to discuss all of these one after another. Now, when we read poems, what do? We notice 2 things in this poem. Number 1, you'll notice repetitions, and these repetitions are in this poem. Why? Because every time something is repeated, it adds to the flavor of drowsiness. It adds to the flavor of intoxication. Things repeat themselves in your mind. And moving on, I'll just begin off with the first part. So the one thing is repetitions, and the second thing we all notice while reading poems is the figures of speech. Because when you write an answer to, let's say, reference to context, a passage has been taken and you have to answer according to that. I have discussed about this. What are the essentials? What do you need to answer? In another video, I'll link it up here somewhere. And because of that, we discuss the figures of speech, that is the rhetorical devices as well. So beginning off in the first stanza, whose crux is the mariners are sitting together and they sing, "Such a beautiful place this island is." Let's understand this. So it starts off with saying that there is sweet music here that softer falls than petals from blown roses on the grass. Now see, this sweet music actually reminds you of the music that they can hear when their heart beats in their ears. So even the heartbeat in the ears is sounding like music to them. So everything is a music to them right now. So there is sweet music here that softer falls. Now this music is falling softly on their ears. It is falling softly, but how softly is it falling? The poet uses similes in order to explain this comparison. So he says it falls soft softer than petals from blown roses on the grass. So the petals of a rose, when they are taken away from the rose flower and they fall on the ground, there is a softness to it, but the sound is falling softer than that in their ears. Or night dews on still waters between walls of shadowy granite. Now see, night dews, when the night dews fall, the dew is very light in itself. The dew is found on trees, it's found on various kinds of surfaces. But what is the surface mentioned here? It is walls of shadowy granite. Now here is an interesting thing. Walls of shadowy granite. So these are walls made of granite, and it seems as if some kind of a shadow is falling over them. Maybe the shadow because of the moonlight or because of the sunset, but you can clearly understand that the walls of shadowy granite are actually the mountains. So the dew can be found on still waters between the walls of shadowy granite. So maybe in a valley somewhere between two mountains there are still waters, and here, or even on the surface of the valley, you can find dew, and the dew falls softly over there. What is this called, people? Whenever he wants to say mountains, but instead of simply saying mountains, he uses a long and very roundabout way of explaining mountains. This, my friends, is called periphrasis. So it's as if the words are going around in a periphery of the main word. So it should be mountains, but doesn't say mountain, says walls of shadowy granite. This is called the periphrasis. Now, the sound is softer on the ear. Softer than what? Than the petals of a rose on the grass, or than how the night dews are falling on the mountains. Music that gentlier on the spirit lies than tired eyelids upon tired eyes. You see repetition in tired, tired. And tired, the spelling, it was just spelled that way, but it means tired simply. So music that gentlier on the spirit lies than tired eyelids upon tired eyes. So your eyelids are also not falling as gently as the music. So how imagination is created, how you can imagine this music, which is an auditory response, which is something you can only hear, but now because of this poetry you can see the music. You can see that this music is softer than these physical cues, these visible cues, like the rose petal falling, or the dew settling, or tired eyelids falling on the eyes. Music that brings sweet sleep down from blissful skies. Now this music, it brings sweet sleep down from blissful skies. Skies are being, the sky is being personified. It is happy. Usually people are happy, but here the sky is happy. So alright. So music that brings sweet sleep down from blissful skies. Here are cool mosses deep. Such a beautiful place, right? Such a beautiful, so beautiful this island is. Such amazing noise we have, sound we have here. Here are cool mosses deep, and through the moss the ivies creep. Through the moss, now whenever you think of moss and cool, you can understand this is a very ideal ground for sitting and just laying down and going to sleep. So here are cool mosses deep, and through the moss the ivies creep, and in the stream the long-leaved flowers weep, and from the craggy ledge the poppy hangs in sleep. Here, every single aspect of nature is personified, and that is what makes nature so beautiful over here, because nature is given human properties. The long-leaved flowers, they are weeping in the stream, and maybe it is because the long-leaved flowers are weeping that the stream is getting so much of the force. Imagination, see? And from the craggy ledge, now crag, remember, In Ulysses, we discussed crags means mountains or big boulders. From the craggy ledge, there is some kind of a mountain ledge. Let's say it's like a piece of rock somewhere out there, and the poppy is lurking somewhere. This poppy flower is lurking somewhere, and this poppy is hanging in sleep. Now, see, poppy, the use of this flower is very interesting because poppy seeds are usually what constitute opium, and opium itself is an intoxicant. It intoxicates you. So basically, the idea of a poppy seed being in a place where you can find lotus is very understandable. You can get it very easily. So from the craggy ledge, the poppy hangs in sleep. Well, poppies don't sleep, but here poppies are sleeping. So there's this atmosphere of sleep and rest that we can find in the first stanza, which says such a beautiful place this island is. Now let's move on to the next stanza, in which moves on to say, why should humans, the best species, toil while every other species can rest? The mariners suddenly talking about this place, they suddenly realize that we humans are the best of our race. So why are we toiling while everything else, the poppy, the long-leaved flowers, and everything else is actually resting? Why are we working? Let's read this. So he says that, okay, let's see. Why are we weighed upon with heaviness and utterly consumed with sharp distress? Why is there this heaviness in us? Why is there this sharp distress that we are feeling? While all things else have rest from weariness, everything else can have a rest from weariness, and yet we don't. All things have rest. Why should we toil alone? This is the questioning nature of these mariners. We only toil who are the first of things. So, human beings, as the first of things, as the biggest, as the most accomplished creation of God, as the most accomplished creation that has ever been done, is something which has been in our civilization, in our humanity, in our species itself for a long time. We have considered ourselves to be the best, the ace species, and it goes on even today. And therefore, we do not have any regard for nature, we do not have regard for animals or for other creatures, and that's a problem. But however, you cannot change the fact that at that time what humans did, no other species could do. Humans were the ace predators of the time. So, why are we weighed upon with heaviness and utterly consumed with sharp distress, while all things have rest from weariness? All things have rest. Why should we toil alone? We only toil who are the first of things and make perpetual moan. We are moaning perpetually. We are toiling. We are working hard. Toil means to work hard, and we are moaning. So we don't like this work, and yet we work, and we don't like it, so we moan. Still, from one sorrow to another thrown. And what is this life? This life is full of sorrows. You are thrown from one sorrow to the other. Very easy things. You can understand this just by reading it. Nor ever fold our wings and cease from wanderings. So this is a beautiful metaphor. Here he considers himself to be a bird. The mariners, they look at the birds and they say that even birds who are flying in the skies, who are migrating all the time, they have the opportunity to fold their wings sometimes and rest. But these mariners, they don't even have that opportunity. So birds are better than them, whereas we are the best species. But the birds are luckier than us. Now, nor steep our brows in slumber's holy balm. Again, another metaphor. So how do we explain this metaphor? Steep our brows, so our brows are steeped in a balm. Whenever you have some kind of pain, what do? You apply some kind of a balm, let's say something which reduces the pain, amrutanjan, something like that. So this amrutanjan that you apply on your forehead, it is actually sleep, which gives you rest from all your troubles. So just like we apply a balm on our forehead when we are very tired, This balm is actually the balm of sleep. So we sleep when we are tired. But can we sleep? These mariners cannot sleep, and therefore they say, nor steep our brows in slumber's holy balm, nor hearken what the inner spirit sings. We cannot even hearken. Hearken means to hear. To hearken means to hear. So we cannot even hearken or hear what the inner spirit sings. Our inner spirit is singing something. What is it singing? There is no joy but calm. Calmness is what gives joy, and if you cannot be calm, you cannot be joyful. They are spending their whole life toiling. How can they be calm? Why should we only toil? The roof and crown of things. See, the roof and the crown of things, the roof and the crown, these are usually at the top of everything. So the crown is at the top of the head, and the roof is at the top of the house. Just like man is at the top of the entire pyramid, the circle of nature, or the pyramid of life forms. Man is at the top. So this is a metaphor. Man is like a roof or a crown at the top, and yet we are the ones who toil, and these lesser beings, they do not toil. That's the second part. Why should humans, the best species, toil while every other species rest? Let's go to the third one. In the third stanza, the mariners, they go into complaining how the leaves and the fruits, that is inanimate objects, living things but inanimate, are so much more luckier than us, the most superior beings. Leaves are luckier, fruits are luckier. Let's read this. They say, lo, in the middle of the wood, the folded leaf is wooed from out of the bud. Now we have to wander from here to there, we have to work hard, we have to do it all on our own. But this leaf that comes out of the wood is actually wooed out. To woo means to court. Hearken means hear. Woo means to court, and court in the sense to flirt with. And the folded leaf is wooed out of the bud. So the leaf doesn't have to do anything. The leaf simply has to exist. The bud is there and the leaf comes out of it. How? With winds upon the branch, because the winds are there, and there grows green and broad and takes no care. So the leaf doesn't move. The leaf simply is born out, it grows green, and it's thriving. Nothing happens. Sun steeped at noon, and in the moon night leaf dew fed. So what does a leaf need? It needs sunlight, and at night maybe a little bit of dew to make it look so fresh in the morning. So we need to apply makeup whenever we wake up in order to look fresh. And then we need to eat food physically, actively. We have to do so much work so that we can have that food in our stomachs. But leaves don't need that. What do leaves need? The sun is always there, and the sun is giving them the food they want. And at night they are getting their makeup on by the dews. They are getting fresh for the morning. So lucky, so lucky. And turning yellow falls and floats around the air. And then after some time they turn yellow, which is again a beautiful color, and then they fall and their life is done. So easy. They didn't have to move their entire life. Next he goes on to, lo, sweetened with the summer light, the full juiced apple waxing over mellow. So talks about a full juiced apple that is waxing and over mellow. It's completely ripe. You can, something like John Keats's Autumn, in his poem called to Autumn, he talks about these overripe apples. Even Robert Frost talks about these overripe apples in his poem After Apple Picking, or is it Apple Picking? So it's an amazing poem. But anyways, the full juiced apple waxing over mellow drops in a silent autumn night. See, autumn. So during the autumn, all the fruits, they get ripe, and its allotted length of days, the flower ripens in its place. The flower simply doesn't move. The fruit does not move. It stays in the same place all its life. It's born there, it ripens there, it withers, and it falls down. Why do we have to move so much? So the flower ripens in its place, ripens and fades and falls and hath no toil. It doesn't have any toil. It just falls and fades. It fades and falls, fast rooted in the fruitful soil. And when it falls, it is rooted in the fruitful soil, so that again the leaf will come out of it. So a circle is completed. The leaf comes out, it becomes a tree. In the tree, the fruit happens, the fruit grows, and the leaf falls, and then the fruit falls. The fruit falls on the ground, becomes a seed. From that seed, again, the leaf grows. So it's a cycle. And throughout the cycle, they survived, they lived, but they did not move, they did not toil. So plants don't have to toil. Why do we have to toil? Okay, so that is the third stanza. How lucky are the leaves, how lucky are the fruits. Next, we move on to the fourth stanza where he says, work is so hateful, let us rest instead. Now that they have talked about, mariners have talked about how this land is beautiful and only our species has to work. No other species works. How lucky they are. Now they start complaining how hateful is the sky. So how lucky they are, and now how hateful is everything else, and why we should rest. Let's move on. Read this. Hateful is the dark blue sky vaulted over the dark blue sea. You see repetition. Dark blue, as if there's no need to find a new word. They are so lazy that they cannot come up with new adjectives. Dark blue sky, dark blue sea. That's it. Hateful is the dark blue sky vaulted over the dark blue sea. Vaulted means covering. Death is the end of life. Now here comes the question. Death is the end of life. Why should life or labor be? If we all know that everyone's life ends in death, why labor? Why work? Why do so much? It makes sense, doesn't it? Why do so much work when we know that we are going to die? Well, it doesn't. But anyways, this is how the lotos makes you think. The lotos has intoxicated them so much, they have become so lazy, they cannot move anymore. Let us alone. So right now we are probably getting a hint. This is indirectly saying, when they say let us alone, it means that someone is actually trying to take them somewhere. So this is probably Ulysses and his other men trying to coax them out of the den of the Lotos-Eaters and take them to the ship. But they said, oh, don't, let us alone. We don't want to go. What pleasure can we have to war with evil? Okay, so yeah, we fought with evil, we fought with gods. What pleasure did we get? See, we are resting here, we have Lotos, what else do you want? This is pleasure. Let's forget everything else. That is how they are thinking, that is how the Lotos is making them think. Is there any peace in ever climbing up the climbing wave? Now you see, initially they had there was another word which was used, that is mounting wave, but now it has become so lazy in their minds that they don't even want to create new adjectives. Is there any peace? Enjambment. So you remember enjambment, run-on lines. We have got a lot of run-on lines meanwhile where in ever climbing up the climbing wave doesn't make sense. But if you read it from the earlier line, that is there any peace? Now it makes sense because it is run on lines. It has gone on to the next line. The meaning has gone on to the next line. Is there any peace in ever climbing up the climbing wave? All things have rest. Everything rests, then why not us? All things have rest and ripen toward the grave in silence, and everything goes in silence. They ripen, fall, and cease. They ripen, they fall, and they just cease to exist. They are just not there. Give us long rest or death. This is very dark now. What started out to be more like a picnic atmosphere where they are going into a land and it seems so beautiful, utopic. Remember, I used the word utopia. With this line, give us rest or dark death or dreamful ease. It has turned into a dystopia. It has turned into a dystopia. So now they just don't want to travel, and not just that. They think that for them, death, rest, I'll just erase this part so that it's easy for me. How dystopic the situation is that for them death, rest, sleep, and dream, they all mean the same thing. So it doesn't matter to them whether they die or rest or sleep, it's all the same. They just want to stop this harsh labor. So I am pretty sure that I've been able to explain how their thought process is working, how the lotus is playing with their minds. What happens in the next four choric songs? How does their thought process, go ahead and reach a conclusion? We'll see that in the next video. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.